They're perhaps NFL's most talented overall roster, but as we sit in the preseason, the Cleveland Browns are nothing more than an afterthought. Guys, let's talk about the Browns and why I think they're NFL's most confusing team in 2022, and obviously the Deshaun Watson thing. I want to give my take on that, what I think is going to be happening. We'll take a look at the team roster, the offense, the defense. How does the schedule set up for this team, and why are they so perplexing? Let's get right down to it. The Deshaun Watson situation, suspended for 6 games, but the NFL is appealing that. And guys, the initial reports, the initial thought is this is the case the NFL is going to want to take a stand on and say, we're changing the way we approach these assault situations. I personally think the NFL will suspend Deshaun Watson for the first 12 games because I think Roger Goodell really cares about public perception. And if Watson is suspended for 12 games, my prediction would be the Browns go out and trade for Jimmy G, and he would be the Browns starter week 1. This is just my opinion personally. Who knows? Maybe Watson is only suspended 6 games, but with the way it's trending in the NFL, Roger Goodell really wants to change the stigma around how the NFL handles these assault cases. I think it will be upped. Some people are speculating maybe a year. I think it kind of gets settled on 12 games, and that will force the Browns' hand to try and trade for a quarterback, and I just don't see the point. You know, Jimmy G is someone in the prime of his career. He wants to play. You put him on this roster, he can at least be serviceable. If it is a 12-game suspension for Deshaun Watson, I'm expecting the Browns to trade maybe a 3rd-round pick for Jimmy G. This is just all speculation, guys, of course. Just one person's opinion. But that's the Deshaun Watson situation, and that's why it's so unique. The Browns trade for Deshaun Watson at no discount. At no discount. They give up multiple first-round picks. Then they give Deshaun Watson a massive contract extension, and he still might get suspended for the full year. This situation is so weird. But guys, this Browns roster, this is why it's so unbelievably crazy. If Deshaun Watson has no suspension, this might be the most talented roster in the NFL. Maybe the receivers are the weak point. Maybe, but we're going to talk about that. So you've got Deshaun Watson. We know Jacoby Brissett is the backup. If Watson somehow, maybe it's only a 6-game suspension, it gets appealed, it's still a 6-game suspension, I think the Browns will roll with Jacoby Brissett for the first 6 games. Nick Chubb, superstar running back, paired with Kareem Hunt, possibly the best running back tandem in the NFL. Actually, probably the best running back tandem in the NFL. They trade for Amari Cooper, a veteran solid receiver. Donovan Peoples-Jones, a decent number 3. Guys, David Bell from Purdue, the steal of the draft. It was crazy. I don't know how he falls late in the 3rd round. The Browns get him. He is going to be unbelievable if they get Deshaun Watson back this year. I'm drafting him in every fantasy league. And then how about one of the more underrated tight ends in the NFL? A physical freak, David Njoku, who should get more red zone targets this year, signs the extension. Good for him. No more Austin Hooper to drop passes, so now David Njoku can really shine. And then you've got one of, if not the best offensive lines in football. They do have a new center, Nick Harris, but other than that, 2 really good tackles, 2 probably, Batonio and Teller, the elite, one of the elitist guard combos in the NFL. The roster is just simply stacked. Going to the defense, you've got Myles Garrett, who right now is the odds-on favorite, according to many sports books, to win Defensive Player of the Year. Personally, I think Nick Bosa is going to win it, but this could certainly be Myles Garrett's turn to win Defensive Player of the Year. Jadavian Clowney re-signed, one of the most underrated pass rushers in the NFL. What an interesting career trajectory for Jadavian Clowney, being the number 1 overall pick. Maybe not living up to the hype, but his pressure rate opposite Myles Garrett is so unbelievable. JOK, the young stud linebacker going into his 2nd year. Anthony Walker's not horrible. And then you've got 2 great cornerbacks. Denzel Ward signed to that new contract, along with Greg Newsome, the other cornerback, former first-round pick out of Northwestern, who had an amazing, underrated rookie year himself. John Johnson, the veteran safety. And how about another breakout candidate? Grant Delpit. We all remember him at LSU. He gets injured with the Browns. He's ready. Apparently in training camp, he's doing unbelievable. Guys, the overall story. Also, Martin Emerson, who was a third-round draft pick, the other cornerback who's right now second string, is turning heads in training camp. This Browns roster is absolutely loaded. There is just a crazy amount of uncertainty surrounding the superstar quarterback. But this is a loaded roster. Loaded. Almost at every position. The only position I would say maybe a little weak, receiver and maybe defensive tackle as well. Looking at the Browns' schedule and how it sets up, when Deshaun Watson, it was originally announced that Deshaun Watson got suspended for 6 games, people were looking at those first 6 games with Jacoby Brissett and realistically projecting the Browns to go 4-2, maybe even 5-1. Very easy start to their season at Carolina. Very winnable game. You get the Jets at home. You get Pittsburgh at home with their quarterback thing with, Mitch Trubisky or Kenny Pickett. At Atlanta, they're going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL. You get the Chargers at home. They'll be traveling West Coast, East Coast, 10 a.m. start time for them. And then you also get the New England Patriots at home. So those are first 6 games, you should be, even with Jacoby Brissett, 4-2. It gets a little squirrely if Deshaun Watson gets suspended longer than 6 games with this appeal. That's why the whole thing is so confusing. Week 7 at Baltimore, that's tough. Week 8, Monday night home game versus Cincinnati. That'll be fun. You get the bye week, Week 9. Week 10 at Miami, with Tua and that young improved offense. At Buffalo, that's rough. Versus Tampa Bay is tough. At Houston is a free win. At Cincinnati is a tough game. Versus Baltimore is a tough game. Versus New Orleans is winnable. At the Commanders is winnable. And then at Pittsburgh. So really, the schedule gets tough in the middle. It's easier at the top and not too bad finishing out, with New Orleans, Washington, and Pittsburgh, but that Pittsburgh game is away, although I would guess Pittsburgh at that point wouldn't be playing for anything. Right now, I believe the Browns have the 3rd best odds to win the AFC North. Of course, a lot of that is just, it's major speculation. We don't know what's going to happen to Deshaun Watson. Will it be 6 games? Will it be 12 games? Will it be the season? My pick right now, I think the NFL does a compromise. They say we won't do the full season, but we want to send a message. We're going to be handling these cases differently. People can agree with it, disagree with it. It's very subjective. There's a lot depending on what team you're a fan of. You want you want the player suspended. I understand it. Personally, I'm trying to look at it from a neutral perspective, not being a fan of any team in particular, and saying I think what the NFL is going to do, it's going to be 12 games, and I think the Browns will go out and trade for Jimmy Garoppolo to try and salvage their season and maybe be 7-5, 8-4, possibly getting Deshaun Watson back. But that would be a crazy story, getting, your franchise quarterback debuting in week 14. So maybe they will suspend him the full season. I don't know. I'm just speculating. This whole thing is so confusing because with a healthy Deshaun Watson, this team is possible Super Bowl, one of the top 3 teams for the Super Bowl. There is no real weak spots on this roster. They are loaded with talent. The only position I would say would be the receivers, and I'm telling you guys, David Bell is going to be an absolute steal. He's going to be a receptions machine out of Purdue. The only reason he really fell in the draft is due to his 40 time, which is generally overrated and doesn't have a major impact in terms of actually being an elite receiver. So one of the best running back tandems in the NFL, possibly the best offensive line in the NFL, one of the best pass rushing duos in the NFL, an extremely young, talented cornerback duo in Denzel Ward, Greg Newsome. The talent is oozing with this team. And the other really unique thing, when the Browns traded for Deshaun Watson, they didn't trade for him at a discount. They gave up plenty of future first-round assets, third-round picks, and then they gave Deshaun Watson a massive extension with a cap hit of $50 million starting, I believe, next year. So it is so unique where you have a player with so much uncertainty, but you still give up so much for him. He gets suspended 6 games. People thought it was going to be a year. There's a lot of outcry. Now it's getting appealed. That is why this team, they're the most confusing team. They're an enigma because you have your franchise quarterback, but you don't know. Is he going to be out 6 games, 12 games this season? Do you have to trade for Jimmy Garoppolo? You've got one of the most talented rosters in the NFL. If Deshaun Watson was playing week 1, this is a team that, the expectation is at the worst, I think, AFC Championship game based on the overall roster talent. So what a unique, confusing team this is. We will see what the Browns do. But guys, just wanted to go through the Browns season and on what they're going to do. Make sure you're following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I'm, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.